Rug weaving is a traditional art practiced by the Navajo, a Native American nation located in the United States. They originally wove blankets and clothing for themselves. Then in the early 1800s, they began weaving rugs for sale, making home on the range just that little bit more comfortable. While many weavers create contemporary designs, Navajo rugs typically feature bold geometric patterns. The wool preparation and techniques developed by the weavers' ancestors have been proudly passed down from generation to generation. Everything in a Navajo rug comes from Mother Nature, starting with fleece, raw wool sheared from a sheep. Working one handful at a time, the weaver removes the mats and tangles and places the wool on carders, which are wooden paddles with metal teeth. By pulling one carder against the other, she straightens the wool fibers, lining them up in the same direction. This prepares them to be spun into one continuous strand of yarn. After 3 or 4 pulls, she flips the carders to straighten the fibers on the underside. She then rolls up the fleece and adds it to the other rolls in the spinning pile. She spins the fleece one roll at a time with a traditional spindle that she lays against her thigh and rotates towards her with one hand. This movement twists the carded roll of fleece into a strand. When she reaches the end of the roll, she connects another and resumes spinning, and keeps repeating this process until she's produced one long continuous strand from about 50 rolls. She then respins the strand to thin it out to the final weaving size. When she's done, she checks the entire length of the strand, pulling on thicker areas to thin them out, so that the entire strand is a consistent size from one end to the other. Here you can see the difference in thickness between the first spinning and the second. To infuse her wool with colour, she prepares natural dyes: sunflowers for yellow, walnuts for tan and brown hues, and cactus bugs for bright red. These bugs are cacti pests. She soaks the bugs in warm water overnight. Then she submerges them in a pot of water, pours in the pre-soaked water as well, and simmers for 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how vibrant she wants the red dye to be. Meanwhile, she soaks the yarn in warm water for at least half an hour to open up the fibers, so that they'll absorb the dye. After wringing out the yarn, she immerses it in the pot of hot dye and simmers for at least 45 minutes, depending on the amount of bugs, water and wool. She stirs frequently to ensure it dyes evenly throughout. It's the same process with plant dyes, except that she doesn't pre-soak the plants before boiling them in water. The shade of colour depends on the ratio of plants to water during dye preparation, and also of the dye to the quantity of the wool. Sunflowers and walnuts are just 2 of many plants the Navajo have traditionally used to produce a rainbow of dyes for their textiles. With her wool now spun and dyed, the weaver picks up her weaving comb and gets to work. Navajo ancestors used trees as the sides of their looms, but today weavers make looms from wood or metal. After stringing tight vertical lines of wool, called the warp, she uses a flat handmade stick, which is called a batten, and pries a wide enough opening through which to pass her hand with the coloured weaving wool. She weaves horizontally, in and out between the warp, first in one direction, then in the other. Then she packs down the wool tightly with her comb, so that the warp doesn't show. She inspects the emerging unique pattern, occasionally counting vertical strands to calculate the symmetry, a signature feature of traditional Navajo rugs. So there you have it. We've told you all there is to know.